So today we're going to take a wee look at all the seeds I'm going to be sowing for my flower beds in the garden this year. But more than just looking at the seeds, I thought it might be nice to actually wander about and we'll look at those flower beds. We'll see what they look like now in February, and I'll show you some clips to show you what they look like when they are full of all the things that I'm going to be sowing. So the seed box is out, let's go for a walk. Let's start with this bed then. I usually call this the fence bed, or sometimes I jokingly say the walled garden. This is a flower bed, meaning the only thing I grow in here is the shrubs you can see, and there's various flowers. Now that's the thing, I just said the shrub you can see, because, I mean, obviously it's February, the garden's not looking at its best, it's not amazing, but there are heaps of things in here just now. Some you can see, some you can't. And I'm going to be sowing seeds for things to go in here. So let's think of it like this. What can you see in there right now? Well, the really obvious bits. 2 huge schemia, which is these, which I absolutely love. These are Japonica schemia. They smell amazing when they flower, and they're just awesome, and I love them so much. I'm a bit jumpy because, as you can see, this one's looking really poorly. And I suspect it's because I need some nutrition in this bed. But that's a whole other story for another video I'm going to do, so I will explain. What you can also see in here then again is a big camellia. It looks great, it's all glossy and looking fabulous. It never really flowers though, because this bed doesn't really get any sun. It gets a little bit of indirect light later in the day, but from about here, it just never gets any light. This is all in shade. So you have to think about that when you're growing your plants. But there's lots of other stuff in there just now. What you can see is there's lots of these leaves from the cyclamen, and you can see there's primula, which are great little winter flowers. They're always growing all year. There's lots of little things you maybe can't see from there, so I'm going to bring you in. All over this bed then, there are all my little spring bulbs coming up. So there's these little tiny ones. These are my crocuses. I've got 3 types of crocuses. I've got orange, I've got yellow, and I've got purple. I've also got some of the larger spring bulbs. So the obvious ones, you can see here the light coloured ones. These are my little miniature daffodils. This bed is full of those guys and they look amazing. But there's a whole heap of tulips in here as well, all waiting to pop out the ground. There's also a kind of can see, and it's all these little leaves coming up above ground here, because there is a big astrantia grows here, which gets quite tall and has the most awesome flowers on it that I love taking photos of. Especially if there's been a little bit of rain and it's got droplets on it. It's just brilliant. Now there's another big thing in this bed you can't see, but I know it's going to come back, and it is a big part of this bed. And it's my crocosmia. They are stunning. They are really, really tall, give immense structure. It's what you call an architectural plant because it gives so much structure, and they are a massive feature of my plant. Probably late summer onwards, because they're so tall, they're striking with the blade-like leaves, but also they have the most amazing, gorgeous red flowers, and really they pretty much dominate the bed. But because there are gaps, and as I said, there are always bits that can be filled in, I'm going to be growing lots and lots. So there's seeds to get sown. And my focus for that is going to be on the medium height range for this bed, because we've got these shrubs at the back and the crocosmia, which are quite tall. So what I've also got going is, as you guys know, I've got my foxgloves going. There are a few that have survived from last year, which just self-seeded and they've survived. But I've got more going in the greenhouse so that I can be certain on what colours and varieties I have and where they go. So they'll be kind of around this middle point. What I'm also going to have in that middle point is cosmos again. But I'm growing 3 types of cosmos this year. 2 are going to be the slightly taller ones. So again, I'm repeating candy stripe, the same as last year, because they are just, number 1, absolutely gorgeous little pops of colour, whites, pinks and light purples. Number 2, They also just survived everything our garden threw at them. They worked everywhere. So definitely those again. I'm adding another variety called Seashell, and it's much more of a deeper purple colour. So that's going to give us that contrast. And the other variety, the third one, is a smaller one. So it's going to be about this height and it's going to be more towards the front. And that is Casanova, and it's white. So white flowers for us, we found really pop in our garden because we've got a lot of this kind of rusty red coloured fencing and the shelving, what have you. So white's super pop against it. So those are my Cosmos. I'm also going to be going Rudbeckia. Now I grew Rudbeckia last year, so this year again I'm going to be adding that in, but 2 new varieties. Now for us, Rudbeckia is an annual. For other people it's a perennial, but it just doesn't survive our winter, so I re-sow it every year from seed. The 2 varieties I'm going with are Kelvedon Star, which sometimes gets called Sputnik, and the traditional black-eyed Susie that everyone knows. And they give me those gorgeous big yellow flower heads with hints of reds and oranges in them. They're a replacement for the sunflowers I used to grow, because we found the sunflowers I grew were all like 12, 13 foot tall, and you never really got to enjoy the flowers on them. So now instead I go for that same style of flower, but a much lower level. I forgot one. Can't believe I forgot this. Antirrhinums or snapdragons. Super amazing and successful, so I'm going to be growing them again this year, and they're fabulous again, about that height, multi-headed, lots of colours. They just look great, and we dot them all over the garden. Okay, that bed now. So this part of the garden gets called the beer garden because in the evening it gets a lot of direct sunlight in summer, and it is just a great place to sit out and have a beer. This bed, we actually only built this bed a few years ago, so it's relatively new to the garden in the scheme of things. But this bed in summer, in fact spring and summer, this is just stunning. Now, what's in here right now that you can see? Let me bring you in because there's lots to talk about in this bed. Okay, so let's start with the obvious then. You can see there are 2 trees here. These are prunus or flowering almond trees. So they're not productive, they're just ornamental. But basically it's that pinky cherry blossom type thing. And in spring they're absolutely covered with blossom and it's beautiful. Behind them, on the fence, is our clematis. Now, last year was the best it has ever been. It was absolutely a blanket of white flowers. It was so just, I can't even describe how good it was. But since then it started to look more poorly, and we're thinking maybe last year was its last hurrah. So I'm waiting to see if I can maybe replace it if I need to. I've already sown something called a purple bell vine, which our friend Camilla gave us, but it's apparently an incredibly tricky one to get to germinate, and it takes quite a bit. Now, it is a perennial, except in our garden, because it doesn't cope with our winters. So I'll be growing it as an annual if I can get it to take. If not, I'm going to have to come up with a new plan. But what else you can see in here now is the big obvious green bits. Hellebores, you guys know about them. You know Kate loves her hellebores. So there's 2, but these are quite new, so it'll be next year before they really look their best. There's a few foxgloves in here that I've been growing on since last year, so I'm looking forward to having flowers on them, and I've got more foxgloves to go. I've also got, if I move and bring you over, heaps more spring bulbs in here. Now, what's up here that you can see? These are daffodils, but you can see behind there is a lot of tulips in this bed. So I've got a mix. I've got white tulips and I've got orange tulips and I've got some tulips that are kind of like raspberry ripple. So I can't wait till they all come up because it does look amazing. What you can also see is a few little bunches of leaves here and there. These are aquilesias that are just starting to come up. So again, that's just going to give us the different heights, because in your flower beds and your borders, you want different heights at different points, different colours, because it's all about creating just visual stimulus for the eye and drawing the eye around the garden. So as you can see, there's a fair few bits and pieces. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention as well, we've got some vinca. There's a couple there, one on either side. That's what you can see right now. There are more spring bulbs in here that haven't come up yet. There are a few alliums of different sizes and colours in here as well. And we've got a few perennials in here, like we've got ragged robin, sort of whites, that will come up and give us a little bit of height. But again, as you can see, because it's winter time, it's looking a wee bit bare just now, even though I know there's stuff to come. So again, this bed will really benefit from, as I've already mentioned, the rudbeckia, the cosmos, the antirrhinum, but also this bed is where my dahlias go, because the dahlias really love this bed because it gets so much sunlight. So I've got two types of dahlias that are going to be happening in this bed. The same as last year and other years. My Yankee Doodle are my favourite dahlias. Got a real soft spot for them because they were one of the first flowers I ever grew from seed, which is hard to think now when you think that I probably grow about 60 or 70 different things from seed in this garden every year. Those ones I grew last year, I did with you guys to take you along. I'm going to do it again this year because dahlia seeds can cost you 99 pence. Dahlia tubers for one tuber can cost you £9.99. So, it's quite a difference. A pack of seeds, you can get 20, 30, 40 seeds, or £10 for one dahlia. So yeah, it's honestly guys, it's so easy to grow them from seed. You will never buy tubers again, trust me. So we're going to be doing that as I grow along this year. But two varieties, what I've done, for those of you who were with me over winter, you saw me overwintering my dahlia tubers. Here is a big confession. We had a leaky bit in the roof in the shed and I didn't notice, and the dahlias were sitting under it. So those tubers got absolutely drenched, ruined, completely ruined. So I'm having to start from scratch again this year. But you can see I'm not stressing out because it is so easy to grow them from seed, so we're doing it. So we're going to have the Dahlia Yankee Doodle Dandies in here again, but I've also bought one tuber of a totally tangerine, just because I want to show you guys about growing from tubers versus growing from seeds. So that's coming up. But I have two brand new things that I'm going to be growing for this bed, and possibly even for the fence bed. And that is, I'm going to be growing delphiniums, which are an incredibly tall, again, architectural, I'll use this word again, but that's the idea. It's structure, you're putting structure in your garden. So I'm growing a delphinium called High Society. I have never grown any of these before, so this is a whole new one on me, and I'm really looking forward to it. Now, everywhere I've looked, because I'm like you guys, I go and I research the heck out of all this stuff before I grow it. And everywhere I've looked has said delphiniums like cold stratification. That means they like a short period of really cold before you sow them and get them going. It kind of mimics the whole thing in nature. If the seeds have been dropped outside, they'll go through winter. The particular variety I'm growing are called High Society, and I can't find any details anywhere telling me that those seeds need cold stratification, and the seed packet doesn't mention it. So I'm going to hedge my bets. I'm going to do some that I'm going to give cold stratification and some that I'm not, just to see which do best. And of course, I'm going to bring you guys along on the journey as I grow them. Now, the other one that I'm going to be growing for this bed this year that's brand new is zinnia. For years and years, everyone has recommended zinnia to me, and I've never tried them. So we're going to give it a go this year, and we're going with sombrero because they looked quite interesting. So out here in the back garden, that's the two main flower beds, and you can see the difference. One is in the ground and one is a raised bed. But we also have an awful lot of containers and pots that we grow from in this garden, and particularly we've got somewhere called Colourful Corner, so let me show you that. It may seem a bit of a strange name right now because there's not a lot of colour here right now, but trust me, spring and summer, this is just awash with colour. So it's going to start in spring with a lot of tulips. all around here we have loads and loads of tulips. We have some crocuses and things in the big pot there. And they're all going to come up and look absolutely amazing. So it may seem crazy to be calling this colourful corner right now, because there's not a whole heap of colour, is there? But trust me on this one, there will be. So what can you see right now then? Let's see, hellebore. And you can see the difference between this hellebore and the two in the back in the beer garden. This one's much more established, so there's a lot more flowers on it. But we've also got, we've got the bush there with some berries for colour. We've got an azalea here. Come spring, this will look great. And there's some dianthus and some violas dotted about. But there's also a whole heap of other stuff. So this big guy, this is a black elder. And he will, trust me, he's really hardly pruned every winter because these guys grow so much over the course of the year. He will get really tall. The leaves on this guy are just that really nice dark, almost chocolatey colour, and then these beautiful pink flowers. So I'm quite excited about when he comes back. In there's lots of tulips and crocuses and things, the same as with all the pots dotted around. But what we also get is we have lots of violas and dianthus in here. Same with that one, you can see lots of dianthus poking up, and they all flower and look amazing. But some of these pots around here that look like they've just got twigs in them just now will give us some of the best colour. So we'll start with the two pink pots. These are osteopermum, which are some of my absolute favourite things to grow in the garden. And I know that some of you guys like them too, because last year at the Scone Garden Fair, I bumped into some of you guys and you were all buying the same osteopermums as I have. I seen you. We also have some of my favourite flowers. The big pot at the front, gazanias. Can't see anything now, but trust me, they will come back and they will be amazing. The only downside, if you're growing them, it's good to remember the flowers only open in sun. So you need to have a lot of sunlight on the flowers for them to open up, otherwise they close. So it's a good thing to remember. So what am I growing specifically for here then? To be honest, not an awful lot, because this just looks after itself. But I do grow a lot of petunias, mostly for my hanging baskets, but spares always go here. So let me tell you about that one. So we already mentioned the fence bed, and you can see there are 4 hanging baskets along there. But we've also got hanging baskets on the back of the house, on the front of the house, on the back of the shed. We've got various hanging planters all around the garden because it gives us that visual appeal and colour at a height rather than everything being down low. And my petunias that I grow every year for them are Stars and Stripes. And again, I grow them from seed. And guys, I'm going to tell you this, I get some of the most amazing hanging basket displays from those little petunias. So again, I'm going to do a grow along with Eli, and we're going to grow them together from seed so that you can have stunning hanging baskets too. So it's going to be a really exciting year then, and hopefully together we're going to have the best, most colourful flower beds on the internet. Now, as always guys, if you're thinking, excellent, I want to join in, I want to be there and I want my flower beds to be that amazing, start planning now with this video, and I'll teach you how to make your own spreadsheet so you can plan everything. But until next time, see you folks.